Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. Well, are we on the verge of experiencing a financial collapse? That may be a little extreme at this moment, but in case you haven't been paying attention, in the last 24 hours or so, the markets, and most specifically several banks, have experienced some real hurt, let's put it that way. Now, I'm not an expert on this, so go to guys like Economic Ninja YouTube channel. Very, very good understanding of the economy and how it all works would be a good one. And there's many others that would certainly explain things better than me. One would be Johnny Bravo. Johnny Bravo is a good one also. But I can give you some perspective, at least from the prepping perspective. And the things that are happening don't look good. And for those of you that don't know, yesterday it said that the four largest banks in America, like Bank of America, Chase, JP Morgan Chase, a few others, Wells Fargo, and I can't remember the other, lost almost $50 billion in one day. I was reading this morning that they estimate that the total losses in just banking in the last couple of days could be somewhere in the neighborhood of $2 trillion. A bank by the name of Silicon Valley Bank in California, I believe, basically they've gone under. They've crashed. They're done. They shut the doors. They told all the employees to stay at home, and their stocks dropped considerably. And the FDIC and banking regulators were there this morning. They tried to get a bailout. They tried to sell, and no one was buying. And so they basically shut the doors of the place. That happened this morning. So we're talking within a 48-hour period, a bank went from being existing to the doors closed and it's done. And that's the biggest thing in the news, but there are several others. There was a cryptocurrency bank investment type, I'm not sure exactly. They lost a lot. There were a few other banks that's their stocks went down between 25 and 50% drop yesterday, which is considerable. In the stock world, anything of like a 10% drop is kind of considered a crash. So when we're talking 25 to 50% drop in value in one day, that is significant, folks. Cryptocurrency's down. It's not looking good. Now, I noticed that this morning Joe Biden tried to let it slip. I'm sure it wasn't accidental. That hey, next week's inflation numbers look like they might be doing pretty good. You might be impressed with them. I mean, I don't know. And I kind of wonder if that's being said right now due to all this to try to keep people from just sell. And when it comes to the markets, it's really starting to look like another, Lehman Brothers and the other bank. I can't think of it right now. Kind of feel silly. I can't think of it. But anyways, was it Bears? I can't remember. You know what I'm talking about. From 2008. Over the last week, I've been saying that a lot of these numbers, when you look at like housing numbers, when you look at Treasury bond numbers, when you look at money supply numbers, everything is starting to look very similar to the 2008 banking and market collapse. Will it be that bad? Maybe not, but it could be a lot worse because we have a lot of other things going on. It's not just about this. It's not just about these banks that are, potentially going insolvent. It's not just about, just the economy. We're number one, we're in a lot more debt than we were in 2008, like double the amount of debt. And there's a lot of other things going on that have been for the last 3 years because of the whole pandemic. So we're in a less stable position, I believe, than we were in 2008. So the potential for, if something happened that was identical to 2008, the potential for it being worse, I think is definitely there. Of course, there's been other problems in the banking industry recently with Credit Suisse, Wells Fargo. Just been looking at, people have been looking at those of potential bank failures. And so we actually do now have a bank failure. The first one, many are saying that it's the first of many to fall. It's the first domino to fall. And I think, once again, from a prepping perspective, it just shows that what we've been talking about, what you and I have been doing for a while, we're on the right track, and we need to be serious about it, because here this is happening. I would certainly take a good look at where you are when it comes to your money, your finances. I'm not an advisor, but man, I wouldn't be keeping a lot in the bank. I would be keeping just barely enough to pay the bills that you do out of your bank. If you're paying online or whatever, I wouldn't keep much money there. I mean, look at this one that failed today. They went from, like I said, being a kind of not on anyone's radar to the bank's closed within a 24 to 48 hour period. It can happen very, very fast, faster than you might think, and you may not have the ability to go and withdraw money. And as it starts happening, even if the bank's technically open, they may not give you the money, because as we've seen over the last few years, banks just don't have that much currency in them anymore. They're not keeping a lot. And so if you go to the bank and you say, hey, I've got $5,000 in my savings account, I want to withdraw it, they may not let you do it. They may say, oh, well, it'll take a little bit to get that kind of cash. You may need to come back in a few hours, or come back tomorrow, and by that time, the bank's closed. It's done. And I know you say, well, $5,000 isn't that a lot for the bank? Yeah, you would think that, but the truth is that there's been people try to withdraw less than $5,000, and they're still not able to do it from a lot of these banks. So I wouldn't be keeping a lot in it. I know a lot of people talk about gold and silver, and that's certainly something that you should have. Silver's still down a little bit. It's come up just a hair, but it's still definitely in a decent place to be buying. But I wouldn't put all of my money in that either. I would make sure, I've always said that gold and silver should be looked at kind of after you have your other preps in line. Do you have the food that you need? Do you have the guns and ammo that you need? Do you have your water, your medicine, your medical? Is all that stuff lined up? If it's not, I feel that it's foolish that the first thing you'd be doing is converting your paper currency into gold and silver. Certainly should have some, but again, even that I think is going to be more of a transition type of currency. In the end, I think it's just going to be commodities. Real commodities is what people are going to want, because when you're really hungry, you can't eat gold and silver either. No different than you could eat paper money. So be working on that primarily, and then just trying to figure out where you should put your money, because it's starting to look pretty sketchy when it comes to banking right now. This could be the beginning of a major collapse, a major bank failure. I was reading this one that I've talked about that closed its doors, this Silicon Valley Bank, SVB. The numbers that I was seeing this morning is that they have about $210 billion in assets in the bank, is what's estimated. And they're only insured by the FDIC for about $150 billion. So if those numbers are correct, we're talking $60 billion there that someone's not getting. If you're an account holder and your money's in that $60 billion, you're not getting it back if they completely collapse. And this is something I've talked about before. A lot of people, well, at least it's FDIC insured. That means nothing, folks. It's like, getting a warranty on something when the company has gone out of business. The warranty means nothing now. It doesn't matter if you have a lifetime warranty if the company is bankrupt and gone. It's the same thing with FDIC. FDIC insurance, their holdings, the FDIC, is only about 2, maybe 3% at most of the total holdings of banks in the United States. So if they all started to collapse, they couldn't back it up, and it wouldn't even have to be all of them. If 5% of the banks collapsed in the United States, FDIC would completely go under. And then when that happens, I would say it would be a domino effect for sure, that other banks, people would be like, wow, there's no FDIC insurance, so my money's sitting there and it's not protected at all. I think it would very well lead to a complete collapse of the banking system. Excuse me. And maybe that's what they want. Maybe that's what they want because, we've got digital money that's coming out, and you gotta have a reason to switch to that. Throat's a little scratchy. They've got to have some kind of motivation for people to accept digital money. And if the banks and your paper money is all failing, maybe I'm not saying it's guaranteed for sure, but it's certainly something to think about. Bottom line is, folks, need to be taking this seriously, and I would be very cautious about what you're doing right now with your finances. And I know a lot of you are saying, well, man, I've got retirement, I got 401k, I've got these investments. I can't just go and withdraw that stuff and shove it under my pillow. Maybe not, but maybe there's other options. Moving it into something that's a little bit more secure. And I know you'd say, well, I always thought banks were. No, banks are not secure. They're not out there looking for your best interest. And so I suspect, I would say today, there's probably a lot of financial advisors that are very busy because people are starting to get a little nervous that we're seeing some banks fall, and people are wanting to do something different with their money. Start getting ready, folks. This house of cards can't last forever. It doesn't mean that it's going to collapse today or tomorrow or next week. It could, but it doesn't mean it will. But in the end, you cannot have this much of a system, this big of a monster that's been created based on nothing, on a sandy foundation, and expect that it's going to last forever. At some point, that bubble is going to burst. And so what you need to be doing is getting ready and prepared for that. It's getting your house in order time, folks. Start preparing mentally, physically, and spiritually. Thanks for watching. Catch you in the next video.